Bon Bon breathed in the scent of sugar cookies as she trotted down the snow-covered main street. A cold winter's evening made every pony into a baker. Ponyville's streets looked so picturesque during the sunsets, not big and imposing like Camelot, Manhattan's, or any of the other cities she set hoof in. Everything was so clean here, and the ponies were so friendly. If only she'd been able to appreciate that sooner. She tossed back her mane, partially to dislodge the snowflakes threatening to take up residence.
I see it now. I couldn't pick a nicer place to retire.
The word still didn't feel right. Retirement was something ponies twice her age were only starting to plan for. Retirement meant nursing homes, 50th anniversaries, and waiting for grandkids to visit. She wasn't ready for any of that, but she was ready to let the Board of Trustees take over Bon's, her Equestria-spanning confectionery empire. Mom and Dad would be so proud. She brought their candy to the world, one detail-oriented batch at a time.
I'm not retiring. I'm resettling?
That wasn't it either. Resettling is what she'd been doing for 6 years in a row, moving from city to city to expand her empire by day and run co-ops by night. Not that she ever talked about the second part, of course. It all sounded so ridiculous in retrospect. It wasn't like she needed the extra bits or didn't have enough to do with her time. It was probably all Lyra's fault, or even Candy Heart's. Getting a share of the former's creativity and the latter's drive certainly made for an interesting life.
So what are you doing, Bon Bon? You're walking through the town where you kinda sorta grew up, about to meet up with your sister?
She and Lyra never formally defined their relationship. They didn't really need to. Lyra tried anyways, once, and got lost after the bit about rescuing each other from the burning childhood home. Up until the day, the term pen pal might have sufficed. She started writing the moment they went their separate ways, if only to keep her promise to a then bawling Lyra. Just like their inaugural days of running the candy shop, the first awkward letters grew into something familiar and indispensable. At times, Bon Bon even caught herself humming one of Lyra's old tunes while she read about her latest antics. The letters never stopped flowing, not even when Bon Bon moved to yet another new city, or when she had to fudge a date or description to keep her former espionage career under wrap. At least once a week she'd bolt the door, sit down by her bedside, and write. Lyra always listened, and always offered great advice on what new candy flavors to try, or where to open a shop next. She possessed creative insight that couldn't be gleaned from Bon Bon's never-ending numerical analysis and the buying and selling of sweets. Lyra's letters were always bursting with energy, regardless of if she was realigning Bon Bon with her latest musical accomplishment, tearfully admitting another breakup, explaining how hard the princess's school was, or formally announcing her engagement to one of her music buddies. Somehow, reading about all those experiences just wasn't enough. Bon Bon had always known that, at long last, she found the impetus to do something about it. Lyra's final letter, the first one postmarked from Ponyville since they both moved away, set everything in motion. Bon Bon paused. She read and reread the address printed on the mailbox before her. This was definitely the right place. She didn't need to recheck the letter in her saddlebag, not with her legendary memory. The house wasn't as big as their old one, but that hardly mattered. Unless Lyra planned on having more kids and hooves, all that extra space would have just gone to waste. Granted, this was far from a tiny cottage. Some of the neighboring houses looked to be half this size. She stole a quick glance down the street. The burned-out husk of a candy shop had been replaced with something new. Bon Bon couldn't quite make out the sign at this distance. Part of her wanted to wander down there and take a look, if only to give herself another moment to think. Retirement wasn't it, and neither was resettlement. Identifying details like this is what she did for a living, so why was this one so hard? Lyra would probably know. They could talk it over at length for as long as it took. It wasn't like Bon Bon couldn't afford to stay a few extra nights at Ponyville's hotel while she figured out what to do next with her life. She could buy the whole hotel if she wanted. Knocking once was all it took. The door flew open, and Lyra nearly tackled her with a hug.
Bon Bon! You're finally here! Oh, you've gotta come inside. I made hot chocolate, and I've got this great idea for how we're going to redo the wallpaper in your room and...
Bon Bon laughed and, with practiced ease, slipped out of Lyra's crushing embrace.
Slow down. I'm glad to see you too, and... Did you say my room?
Lyra's smile was almost too big for her face.
Yeah. You didn't book a room at the hotel. Did you? Well, actually...
Lyra patted her on the head.
Good old Bon Bon. Always planning, always missing the big picture.
Bon Bon rolled her eyes.
Well, we didn't talk about me staying over, and you're getting married, Lyra. Why would you want me living under the same roof as you? Is your fiancé even okay with that?
Lyra beckoned her inside. The entranceway walls was lined with picture frames, some immortalizing a moment with friends, some showcasing Lyra's artwork, and one of her playing the lie on a park bench.
He's cool with it. He knows you're my family, and he knows you make a crazy good butter brittle. Anyway, when he said he wanted to settle down in Ponyville, I knew just what I wanted. A big house with enough room for me, my big hunk of a stallion, and my bestest friend in the whole world.
Bon Bon breathed in the scent of chocolate, her one true love.
Are you sure? What if we just end up fighting and getting in each other's way again?
Lyra pulled her into another hug.
That's family for you. Welcome home, Bon Bon.
Bon Bon started to smile. That was exactly it. She was coming home. So for those of you who are familiar with my channel, you would probably recognize this story as one of my underappreciation macabre reviews from last year. Admittedly, this was meant to be a Halloween special, but with some complications it ends up as my Christmas special, which I guess is fitting for the candy cane. However, since I did do a review of this fic last year, it felt kinda pointless for me just to repeat myself. So instead I got one or two of the VAs from this to give their own opinions. What do you girls think of this story?
Cleave was an interesting experience. To admit, I did read through some of it while during recording, mainly just to find a snicks for each character I played. Lyra and Bon Bon's relationship was, well, rocky. But to find out that they came from one pony that accidentally split herself into 3 parts was, well, that was a twist not even M. Night Shyamalan could pull out of his ass. And that's saying something polite about it. The ending was pretty satisfactory too, so I quite like that. Nice to see that it didn't end in total chaos and heartbreak. It was a nice experience recording it, and packing in so many hours to do my own work as well as record for Cleave was, well, I guess child's play for me, but it was all fun nonetheless. I really had fun.
This story is a very high contrast when it comes to the matter of the dark subject matter that happened toward the end and the beginning of the story, which seems lighthearted. Now, normally these kind of things would be a hit and miss when it comes to writing, but seeing that Bon Bon and Lyra's relationship is not that of the romantic, which is 80% of the entire fandom's fanfiction on these two, but it gives a very light contrast seeing how each of them are so different, but yet they never knew that they were really part of one pony once. Now that was something completely unexpected when I first read the fan fiction here when I started recording my part for Candy Heart. But it's a total breath of fresh air seeing that Lyra is the clumsy one and yet Bon Bon is the one who, no surprise with her cutie mark, is the one worried about the business end and is the one that is taken serious. Now normally these type of relationships and contrasts are hit and miss, but with the end when Candy Heart comes in, it seems to work better out in the end. Speaking of Candy Heart, I really enjoy that her character is such a mystery in the first 2 chapters that you wonder is she like a long-lost sister or anything like that. The build-up was a little bit choppy in the beginning in certain places, but as you molded them all together and see the contrast of the character when she reveals herself at the candy shop, you see that she is pretty much disturbed in some ways, but yet keeps it in a cool mind and tries to be somewhat normal just so that she could be inconspicuous. But it was this obstacle of a character that helped our 2 heroines put aside their differences and realize how much they each cared for each other. Otherwise, it would be a very depressing ending if all just seems to die in the end or mold it back together into what almost seemed like a disturbed being or whatever would happen in between. Which leads on to, like, I wouldn't certainly call this too dark of a matter, but the only dark matter is really of Candy Heart, which I believe she was very well developed in here. But that's coming from the voice actress herself here. but it still gave the great opportunity for our two heroines to face these obstacles and put aside their differences. Who knows what would happen in the future if there was a sequel or anything like that. I would definitely give this a high recommendation if you wanted something that has a lot of psychological feel into it on the good side and the bad side.
Indeed. But now we would like to hear some of your thoughts and opinions. What did you think of the story itself? Or what did you think of this particular dramatic reading? Were you entertained? Did you enjoy our performances? Is there anything you think might have been able to be improved? Leave it down below and give it a special big thanks to all the voice actors who took their time out of their day to make this possible. And as always, we hope you enjoyed this project, and we hope it was worth your time.